What I want to do is to figure out how you made one specific scene from each of your point of view, the details of the actual shooting of it. And I want to do that incredible opening sequence. And so you're working with a 35, 40 millimeter camera?
The camera is 35 millimeter.
What is 40?
Is the lens, the focal length.
So that's how you get the shallow depth of field?
Depth of field is a combination. It's the outcome of several, optical qualities. It's not only that, it's just, it includes also the distance to the object, the iris, and also focal length. So we were like this close to his face.
You start out with a lot of people that we don't know, and then your face pops into the frame, and you follow Saul. How long is that first sequence?
The first scene is like 3 minutes and something.
But then you track through a number of different spaces.
Yeah, it is actually the first shot being a very organic shot, starting as a static shot and ending in a static shot, but in between we have a moving part that goes through different spaces and different areas, and this is the arrival for the audience into the film, and also the arrival of one transport to Auschwitz, and we are in the middle of the action. Actually, we start in the middle of the action, and this is the introduction of the main character, how we introduce him, and how we introduce the theme of the film, the fact that we will be following one human being, that we will not reveal or show too much of the surroundings, but that we will have this face, a human face, as a sort of filter or a mirror to everything that's around, and the imagination of the viewer will have to project and recreate something in a mental way of the surroundings. That is, in this case, a concentration camp, an extermination camp, with a crematorium at its heart, eating people. So that's how we introduce the film and the main character.
How did you find him, and why is he the perfect person to play this part?
He is already my main character. He is, in a way, Saul. I identified in him qualities of the main character, so that was important for me, to have someone who carries under his skin something of my main character.
What would you say those qualities are that you have?
Some sort of an obsession, some sort of a mania, some sort of willpower, that's able to carry through, despite obstacles or upsets, and maybe some sort of a loneliness, solitude as well.
He's very dogged once he decides that he's going to violate all the rules of the place that he's working as a Sonderkommando. He's going to find this body, and he's going to take care of it and bury it. This becomes the mission. What did that story mean to you? Why was that the story you put in the center of this?
I guess it's really the core of the film. When there is no more hope or God or religion or humanity, is there still a possibility for an inner voice, a voice within that would allow one to remain human? So is there an inner God or an inner law that transcends everything, even religion itself. So is there still in this place in hell a glimmer of hope? So that's what the story is about. This is the question that the viewer has to decide on, whether it makes sense or not.
When you first were approached about this, you're not a professional actor, are you?
Well, I am now.
I agree. You are a great actor. But when you were approached, that was not your identification, correct?
Correct.
So what was your reaction?
Well, the script, that was all about the script. I mean, we were friends, but I've been living in New York for 15 years. Laszlo is living in Budapest. So the script was the one that kind of bridged the gap of these two different continents. And once I, completed reading the script, I was fully convinced that this movie has to be made. And,
Did that conviction overcome your anxiety about delivering in the role? Or did you have that anxiety?
No, I didn't. First of all, when I finished reading the script, I had no idea in what capacity will I be part of this movie. I wasn't offered the lead role. That came at a later stage. I was just reading the script, and I told my wife that this script does the impossible. And if it's, and it was very good to see that the director wrote the script with his friend. So if he wrote it, right, because if it wouldn't have been coming from the pen of the director, it could have been still like a bit of worry if the director gets the script as much as I do, or the scriptwriter. But it was very, comforting and promising that Laszlo wrote the script itself. So I trusted him, I trusted myself, and I had no any sort of doubt or hesitation.
So your character is shut down in a kind of way? How would you describe his state of mind?
No, he's dead.
Okay.
He's
But something's alive.
No, he's dead. And then he's resurrected by the death of this boy.
Who may or may not be his son?
Yeah, no one said son, I said boy. Right. The title says, son of Saul, but, it's...
And this is the quest, this is a question.
Right. I mean, it's the human family.
So this brings him to a certain kind of life. But what you say is true. This is the first time I realized that I had seen a Holocaust film where you know that everyone is going to die, that this is the inevitable. So they really have nothing to be afraid of anymore if they already know they're going to die, and there's no way they're not going to die.
That's right.
Yeah, but still afraid, I guess. I think when you're in the middle of it, it's a different approach, it's a different situation.
Yeah, I mean, we are playing around, kind of on a sophisticated or complex way about this semantics. Like I say dead, but there are of course degrees. I mean, there's dead and deader and most dead, or so But Saul is really, essentially dead. He in the first few minutes of the movie, that there's one mode of existence, and once the boy dies and Saul witnesses his death, he takes, so to speak, the boy's life, kind of gets transmitted into him, and that added life it results in a different soul. There are two souls in the movie. For 5 minutes there is one, and then there are another 100, and there is this second one, who is a maniac, who is a man on a mission.
Absolutely. So if we go back to that first sequence, part of what you're doing is you're creating a world around him that we only see partially from his point of view. That's all we see through the whole movie. But you have to create the world around him. And I wanted to know what kind of scale you were creating. I mean, because you're killing thousands of people every day in this situation in Auschwitz, and you want us to know the scale.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question how you get us that information that you're not showing us directly, visually.
The frenzy, the frenzy that's in the camp is, and the lack of predictability, and the fact that things happen to the main character that are dangerous, or other characters. There are elements in the scene that are unforeseen, and these are the signals that things happen here in a very inhuman fashion. And the first scene gives you the scale of this, but just for as a glimmer, of something. You don't have the full image of that, but you can feel the perspective, and I think it's more the viewer projecting and recreating.
So why did you feel so strongly that this was the way you had to do this?
You mean the visual strategy? Because I think I wanted to talk about the dead, and not stories of survival. I wanted to talk about the rule that is death in Auschwitz. This is what the Holocaust was about. It's about how people didn't come back or were taken to their death, and that's something that was forgotten. I think the Holocaust films, as in general in fiction, have established codes to reassure the viewer, and I think we never got to the very the perception of the human being within the camp. We didn't go to the here and now of it. We didn't go to the present to feel, to have an intuition, a visceral thing, a visceral experience, an intuition of what it might have been. To have these limitations, the lack of knowledge, the frenzy, the impossibility to communicate, to be so limited that you cannot see, apart from your own feet. So that is something that we lost in the after-war period, and constructed a sort of imagery from the outside, knowing the outcome, knowing the exterior, knowing having this sort of panoramic view of it. But I wanted to speak about the individual within it.
And we've also become, it's unfortunate, but we've become inured to some of the familiar images. So you're giving us a different way of looking at it. That forces us into it.
We wanted to go back to the very, the raw reality of it, and only show a glimmer of it, because we cannot show the entire situation. But we can hint at the infinite suffering, human suffering taking place.